Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're doing something a bit different. We're stepping into a completely dark psychological fable, and I want you to imagine for a moment that you are its protagonist. You are the sage. We're going to examine our deeply human, almost primal fear of change, and we're looking at it through a really sharp Nietzschean lens. Let's just dive right into this grim dark world, because as you'll see, this fable perfectly mirrors those invisible, often terrifying battles we fight against ourselves every single day.
I want to plunge you straight into the absolute center of this conflict. Imagine a shadow creature leaning in close and whispering this incredibly chilling question into your ear. Why must you dance toward the abyss when the static perfection of being is already within your grasp? I mean, really think about that in the context of your own life. This is the exact equivalent of that nagging internal voice begging you to stay in a comfortable but totally dead-end job, or maybe a relationship that has clearly run its course just because it's familiar. It's that part of you that just vastly prefers the safety of the known over the chaotic, scary potential of the unknown.
Part 1. The Frozen Zenith.
So for you, the sage, high noon isn't just a time of day. It is the exact moment you are maximally visible and completely exposed. It's the hour your shadow falls directly beneath you. You literally can't ignore it or project it onto someone else anymore. But then, the sun reaches the zenith and just stops. Above the shadow's brow, there's this halo of clock arrows, and they aren't spinning forward, they start ticking backward. With absolute metronomic patience, this system weaponizes stasis. And with every single backward tick, it siphons a little bit of warmth right out of your ambition, basically forcing you to forget what it even feels like to move toward a goal rather than just shrinking away from it.
Part 2. The Shattered Mirror.
Right at the height of this frozen high noon, this shadow steps right through a silver-backed mirror. The glass completely shatters as the entity crosses from the outer realm of the uncanny valley directly into physical presence. This is the Faustbuch Übermensch. Now, this isn't some natural creature you can just run away from. It is condensed, like a poison, from the medicine of your very own survival. It's literally born from the residual echoes of your previous trials. It carries the primal fury of the dragon deer and the cold, calculated malice of Nidhogg. Your own past struggles have physically materialized in front of you to block your path forward.
Now, to understand why this shadow is attacking you in the first place, we have to talk about the tragedy of the unowned. You see, the shadow views your beautiful, fluid fever of growth not as a necessary evolution, but as a dangerous sickness that it desperately needs to cure. And honestly, have you ever experienced this toxic tendency yourself? It's that moment where you actively sabotage your own potential, sacrificing the incredible person you could become just to maintain the safety of staying exactly who you are right now. We've all been there, right? Choosing the comfortable safety of the couch over the terrifying potential of the gym. That right there is the tragedy of the unowned.
Part 3. Fear of the Fluid Life.
So here is the core internal conflict laid bare. On one side, you have yourself, the sage, representing the fluid fever of growth. This is movement, it's life, it's evolution. On the exact opposite side, your shadow manifests as the sentinel of resentment. This represents the static perfection of being and eternal obedience. This sentinel is basically the atavistic sediment of every single trial you've ever survived. He personifies that specific part of you that is absolutely terrified of its own internal darkness and its own progress. Have you ever felt that paralyzing internal battle, where half of you wants to risk absolutely everything to evolve, and the other half is screaming for perfect, permanent stillness?
Well, the weapon the Sentinel uses to enforce this stillness is known as static control. It's this deeply suffocating system of belief, and its entire purpose is to kill the present moment by possessing it completely. The Sentinel weaponizes what Nietzsche called the spirit of gravity. It anchors your evolving soul securely in the thick mud of the herd. By demanding that you hold on to the present moment forever, the fluid life of that moment is just extinguished. The shadow growls at you, saying your celebration of life is just a childish sickness that fears the intellectual void, effectively chaining your soul to the heavy, sinking weight of past values.
Part 4. The Pale Redeemer's Sanctuary.
At this point, the Faustbuch Übermensch changes tactics completely. He now manifests as the Pale Redeemer, wrapped head to toe in obsidian robes, and he whispers to you, "Your growth is but a fever. Find salvation here, within my leaden boxes of ancient certainty." The Redeemer is offering you a false sanctuary from the pain of the crucible, what he calls the Pharisee's paradox. He's offering you a gilded cage. Think of it like that person who peaked in high school, obsessing over past glory days, hiding in the absolute certainty of who they used to be, rather than facing the terrifying work of building a new future.
It's incredibly seductive, but it is deeply, deeply toxic.
What actually happens inside that gilded cage is a dark psychological process known as intellectual salvage. Listen closely here because this is the real danger you face. The Pale Redeemer takes the absolute gold of your hard-won, lived stories, and he smelts them down into the heavy lead of mortality, locking them away in those boxes. It is a hoarding of the past that leads straight to absolute spiritual entropy. Your ambition turns to crumbling dust because ambition, by its very nature, needs to shift and shine and look forward. It cannot look backward.
Let's look at the chilling results of this entropy, a phenomenon known as winter's bite. This freezing gale doesn't just make you cold, it dismantles you piece by piece. It siphons the warmth right out of your soul's ambition. It completely silences the divine eye of your conscience. It entombs your past in static privacy. And honestly, most tragically of all, this entropy transforms you, the seeker, into a mere guardian of dead things. You are no longer an architect of new horizons. You're just a security guard pacing the empty halls of a museum of your own memories.
Part 5. The Dionysian Rupture.
So how on earth do you break free from this? Well, you are forced to the iron threshold of the unconscious. And integration here, it is not peaceful. An agonizing evolution is forced upon you by what's called the violet gavel. The intense pressure violently crushes memory, then it crushes reason, then will, fusing them all together in this intense psychic vacuum. This immense, painful psychological pressure forces the birth of something entirely new. It forces the birth of the man-beast.
Behold, the man-beast of your own internal shame, the shadow roars at you. I mean, look at the starkness of this truth. The man-beast, staring at you with these piercing crimson-red eyes, is a terminal synthesis of intellectual despair and completely feral survival. It is quite literally everything you have been running from. In this horrifying mirror, you, the sage, finally realize that your supposed virtue was just a masquerade. It was a hollow shroud covering up this monster lurking within. The false sanctuary of the Pale Redeemer has failed you completely.
Which brings us to the ultimate resolution. You realize you cannot hide from the heavy leaden gravity of your past. You have to destroy it through a Dionysian rupture. Now, this isn't some quiet, peaceful meditation. Actually, it's a liberating grave dance right upon the wreckage of the past. It requires absolute terminal honesty. You must acknowledge the monster, shatter the static throne of the sentinel, and through that pure, honest destruction, you finally achieve the lightness of a creator. And that brings us to the end of our dark fable. And a final question I want to leave you with today. When your own sun reaches its zenith, when things get incredibly hard and the shadow of your past offers you a nice, comfortable place to hide, will you succumb to the backward tick of the clock? Or will you shatter that static throne, dance toward the abyss, and architect your new horizons? Ultimately, the choice between static being and the fluid fever of growth is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it sparks some fascinating self-reflection for you.